Yeah, so I would say that we chose to do it together just because we have a lot of common topics. He being the IT guy, me being the communications woman, we also have a lot of conflicts. We've decided to divide the presentation up into two parts. So I'll be talking about a little bit about the company, the history of the company, why we're a little bit strange and different than other normal companies. And Jean-Michel is going to go into what we're doing today for solutions. There we go. So, how many of you actually know what EADS is? They were all at the dinner with me yesterday. So most of us here probably in the room know Airbus, I'm imagining. Maybe Eurocopter, maybe some satellites, so Astrium, rockets, etc. But we also do secure communications. So we were responsible for the Beijing Olympics secure communications. Nobody knows that. And we do a lot of black box technology. So there you go. That's us. What's maybe important to understand how our group works in general is the background of how we were formed. It started actually in the US in terms of why we decided to consolidate in Europe. In 1993, the US Department of Defense decided they wanted to have a tighter grip on their own industry, their own defense industry, aerospace industry, etc. And they started to push the different industry players in the US to come together and form sort of smaller groups of companies. One of the reasons for that is control. Obviously, they wanted to be able to control their suppliers, tell them what they wanted made. But on top of that, there is another layer of politics. When the US government would go abroad, talk to different countries, they'd at the same time also sell different things to these countries. In parallel, in Europe, the EU was formed and the European consolidation started. So we're looking around 1992, 1993, when companies and governments started to push themselves together and form different companies. In 1999, EADS was, let's say, born. So it's a relatively young acronym. And the EU managed to squeeze their big players from 21 to 4. So big steps for Europe, I would say, in that respect. Coming to EADS at a glance, you can see that we build big planes, more or less, yeah, and really big planes, actually the biggest in the world. And we build a lot of them at the moment, so we have a pretty strong order book, and we're pretty quite stable in that sense. We also provide defense and security systems and products to Europe. So all of these different budgets kind of feed into the development we do in this area. And we're basically French and German, stereotypically French and German. However, just like the EU, it's a little bit more complicated than what the slide is representing. We've got kind of an unusual employee profile. We're present in 23 countries with 109 offices from the different areas of business we have. 73.5% of the workforce is French and German, like I mentioned earlier. But I would say that we're very, oddly enough, multinational, multicultural, multilingual. So even though that the company language is English, we all happen to speak at least one extra language, whether that's French, German, Spanish, whatever. Another factor that we have is that compared to maybe SAP, our average age is 42. So we're a little bit older than the gamers. But nevertheless, we've still managed to have an active workforce of 28 that's over 50, and 13% is under 30. Not too bad for a typical engineering company, and we've improved actually. The next factor that I want to bring up is that 3,000 employees, so 2.7%, have left the group, whereas 13% of the active workforce is also below 30. So yeah, there we go. With the average age of people leaving the group is 46 years old. So on average, 14 years is spent at our company, meaning, obviously, that people who join the company tend to stay at our company. In general, sorry, too many buttons to push, we had 5,000 new entries in 2010. That's a lot. And the average age of these entries was 34 years old. Not too bad, but maybe not the same numbers as SAP presents. And in general, we have 24% of our workforce has less than 5 years of seniority in the group, and 10% have more than 30 years of seniority. So to sum it up, we're a middle-aged company, French and German. We build big planes and big defense systems, and we stay a long time at the company at Eads. So the challenge that we have at communications, and I guess generally also the other functions, is how do we talk to this audience that's bilingual, a little bit older, and mostly male? Let's see, there we go. We have a huge amount of satellite offices within with their own set of standards and rules of how they govern themselves. We're not really, in that sense, a top-down company. So the office in Thailand or whatever can sometimes not even communicate with the offices in headquarters. On top of that, being a plane and helicopter manufacturer, we have a huge supplier base. And they're located sometimes in Europe, but also located in the emerging markets. Or let's say the emerged markets. How do we include them also in our networks and systems? How do we address the employees in these areas also becomes an issue. On top, we have a goal, because of the great order book of Airbus. We're expected to recruit 4,500 people in the near future, and these need to be experienced candidates. So among them young, but experienced. And we need to get the next generation of engineers in Europe before other competitors get them first. It's true that there is a global shortage, so we're also thinking about going abroad and trying to recruit abroad, but that's always not something easy to do, and we need to consider this in our appeal as a company. Also, unlike other companies, EADS is young, so we've only existed for about 10 years starting last year, and that the company, since it's only existed for about 10 years, we have an issue between how the group identity is. So what is EADS? How do we present ourselves? And the very, very strong historic business that we have, like Eurocopter and Airbus, etc., who have been around much longer than the mother company has. Yeah, the other big issue we have is that we're a blue-collar base. So most of our employees are in manufacturing, meaning they don't have access to computers. They can't just update their status in an intranet or a portal or anything like that. But nevertheless, we need to somehow reach out to them and give them the messages that we're giving also computer-based employees. So it's logistically challenging, I would say, but also in a philosophical sort of way, we have two separate audiences that we have to address, really. On top, we see our white-collar workforce becoming much more mobile, flexible, on planes, in video conferences, sending emails, sort of what I call like the jet-set white collars. And reaching them becomes more challenging because they want all their information in a concise way on their mobiles or any other means of sort of communication. What they don't want to do is sit at their desks and stare at a screen. So that also becomes an issue. And now with all these issues, I'm going to hand over to Jean-Michel, who's going to explain how we solve it all.
Yeah, okay. All right, so as Stephanie said, I'm the IT guy in EADS. So basically, Stephanie comes to me every time with challenges and issues. And problems. So she comes to this type of conference, she sees a lot of very nice presentations, and then she comes back and says, we need Google+, we need this, and we need this. And my answer is always, no. No, so I'm responsible for enterprise solution at EADS. So basically my job is to implement these digital services across the group. Hopefully, as you got in the first part of the presentation, it's a very complex environment. We have different divisions with a very strong identity. We have people everywhere. We also have 40% of the workforce without an email address. So when you talk to them about social networking, that's a bit of a problem. But apart from that, it's fun. We have a lot of fun, we have a lot of things. And actually, I would say 2 years ago, there was a bit of a shift in the mind of some of our leaders, especially in the IT organization, that we really need to do something about digital culture. And we launched several programs across the organizations, across the different divisions of the group, to improve this type of services. So we have basically 3 main axes. We work on trying to be more attractive because IT is really not sexy at EADS today. Stephanie can confirm. We are a middle-aged organization, especially in IT, and especially a few years ago. So we try to change that. We try to put in place tools that can actually retain the young people, retain the young talent, because we have a lot of Generation Y people joining EADS. At the same time, we have people that are as well 55 or 60 years old, so we also need to think about those guys that never been on Facebook before, so we need to put in place solutions that fits people that are above 55, but also people that are below 30. So we're trying to do that, working on being a bit more attractive. Mobility is one thing as well. So for the jet set, white collars populations, they are very mobile. So we need to put tablets in place, smartphone, everything. I need to think about remote access, telepresence, video conference, everything, mobile applications. It's a big topic. I know Stephanie is pushing every day almost to have mobile applications. So we are working on this topic as well. And finally, we are also trying to be a bit more efficient in the way that we are delivering those services, because we are a company that is making plane, so we have a very strong quality culture. Basically, we want to be 100% sure that the plane is taking off and landing before we actually sell it, which is a good news for you if you are flying back home today. You'd be pleased that the plane is safe, the helicopter is safe, and also the
yeah, but we can't guarantee Boeing.
Yeah, Boeing is, but Boeing, they don't have this culture, yes, we have to be careful. Check the planes before, Airbus only. So we have this culture in EADS, so we have a very, very complex, but very quality-focused methodology for making planes, missiles and everything. And we tend to have this culture also in IT, so we tend to also use this type of methodology to implement these solutions. So of course it takes forever, and usually when we wake up, we're working on Enterprise 1.0, and then it's Enterprise 3.0, which is already the big buzzword. So we're trying to change that. We're trying to work on innovations. So we are a company that is very much focusing on innovations, because again, planes, helicopters, and so on. Innovation is a key asset for us. It was not really the case on IT. Again, it was a bit archaic, very much focusing on operations. So now we put in place an innovation department in IT to work on this technology. We are trying to change the way that we are working, trying to convince our top management that for social networking and digital culture type of technology, we have the right to fail. It's not like building planes. We can start something, stop it, change it, adapt. So this is something that we are trying to change. And of course, we are also trying to be more efficient in terms of standardizations. So this is a bit of a challenge for us, because on one hand, we have our business and our customer that is pushing to deploy rapidly solutions like Google Plus and everything like that. And at the same time, as IT, we are also responsible for making sure that what we put in place is a good standard, it's good in operations, and it's cost effective, and so on. So we have a bit of a dilemma sometimes. And of course, all of this we have to take into consideration few minor things, security and national constraints. I follow the discussions with the clouds and Google Plus and Patriot Acts and everything. So of course, Stephanie was sitting next to me, said, okay, we need to do that. And the answer was very simple, no way. That would never work, simply because we have very, very strong security constraints, as you can imagine. For commercial aircraft, so for Airbus, we need to keep our secret very safe, but also for the military business, we have a very strong national constraints coming from the national government, and from the MOD, from the DGA. So there's a lot of things that we would like to do, but we unfortunately cannot do. So we have to take that into considerations. We have also a very strong work councils, especially in Germany, that is making sure that whatever we do has a positive impact on the employees, and also they are very much focused on what we call the blue collars, so the people without email access. So every time that we start talking about social networking and everything, they are basically coming back to us and say, okay, watch out, because you are increasing basically the gap between the blue collars and the white collars. You are focusing on a specific part of the populations, whilst when you do something, you should think about the complete picture and the complete populations. So but it's good discussions. It's challenging, but good discussions. And of course, we also have to fight against priority and budget. We are making planes, helicopters, and this is the priority of the company. The priority is not to play on Facebook, to quote some of our management. So a big part of our population, a big part of our management, their priority is not to implement this type of tools, but is to make the planes out of the factory. So we have to fight against that, and of course budget, but that's usual. Okay, so ultimately what we are trying to do in the IT organization is to provide a set of services to our customer, to our end users. So I'm not going to go through all of this, but our ideas is to be able to access the information through different media. So we have the traditional laptop, desktop. We have also, of course, concerning mobility and also blue collars, phone, tablets, and kiosk. We are thinking about, and in some of the factory in Airbus, actually, you have some kiosk capabilities so that the blue collars can also access the information system. I heard a lot during the presentation about employee-centric. This is also something, the shift that we are doing. For the moment, we have all the portals that we have at Eads, because we just don't have one, we have several portals, of course. They are not very much employee-centric. They are what I call propaganda. So it's basically the top executive that is sending the message across the organizations. So we are thinking about doing a switch from this top-down communication to more horizontal communication on employee-centric portals. We are looking at mobile apps as well for some of the populations. And then we have a set of services that we want to deploy across the organizations and across the different divisions of the groups. So for that, we have different roadmap priorities given to each of the services. I won't go into details, but if you have any specific questions, I can, of course, answer all the questions you have. So this is what we want to do, the challenges that we have. So we have technical challenges. Everything that is related to social networking, what we want to do is we want to implement one global and common profile across EADS. For us, it's a bit of an issue because we are a decentralized organization with a very, I would say, weak governance. So basically, every IT organizations in the different divisions and companies, they can do whatever they want to do. So we have to orchestrate this. And one of the requirements to be successful in terms of social networking is to have one common profile. So this is technically complex because we have to integrate different systems. What we are looking as well is, in terms of technology and challenges, is so when in 1999 when EADS was created, there was a lot of discussions, but we didn't manage to come up with a single portal for all EADS. So basically today we have different portals, and we want to avoid that as well for social networking, to avoid to have what I call the portal syndromes. So basically when we tell the EADS employees, if you want to do something, you can have a lot of different ways to access it. Standardization versus best of breed. So I was discussing this, the fact that a lot of our customers, internal customers, I mean, are pushing for solutions like Google Plus, Cisco Quad, or whatever. And at the same time, we have the obligations, I would say, to manage the information system with a tight budget and also with security constraints. So sometimes we have a bit of a dilemma. Data protection and security, as you can guess, is something that is a bit complex to handle within EADS. And speed of implementation versus evolutions of technology. Again, we are a big company, 120,000 people, so when we deploy a project, it's usually very long, and so it's very important for us that we deploy before we actually move to something else. People, we talk about this in different presentations, the buying and adoption from the people. This is, of course, something. Work council agreement, I discussed that as well. The gap that we may create between information workers and non-information workers is also something that we are looking at, and having a global chart of usage as well, commonly agree across the organization with taking into account national and local constraints is something that is quite challenging. And from the management, we were discussing before, so I think we have the support from our executive board. It's not really structured, but we have some support. They want to do something about it.
Yeah, that's said correctly. They want to do something.
That works.
That does something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have some sort of support. It's not really structured, but we have some sort of support. We have 2 of the executive members that are we filming this? Okay. No, they are geeks. Okay, so they are very supportive. But it's not really structured. You know, they just say, okay, you have to do something, and you have to make sure that it works. That's all they care about. The shift from vertical and top-down communication, so this is what I was saying as well. We are very much in organizations where we are sending message across, so we have to change that. So fear to fail, this is really, this is the question actually from the board, especially from one person of the board that say, okay, I want to do something, but I want to make sure that it works. And every time the answer is, you know, we are not building a plane, we don't know if it's going to work. You know, we have to start, we benchmark different companies in that area, and they all say the same thing. They started, they did something, it was working, they continued, then they tried something else, it was not working, they stopped, they changed, they adapt. And this is something, the right to fail is something that is quite difficult to put in mind of our top executive. And this is basically the challenges. So I don't have an answer to all those challenges, but this is what we are working on. And I think that's all. So I don't know if you have any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions here? Do we have it on mic?
Well, I'll speak loudly. Just a few years ago, you had a delay in delivery of the A380, and it was drawn out to a.
I don't hear the question.
Well, it was a miscommunication internally. Wiring specifications were bollocksed up somehow between groups, and it led to a delay. Was that seen as a learning moment in the organization for internal communications and knowledge management?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, a colleague of ours from Airbus, Stephanie over there, could probably explain it in detail. But to give the politically correct answer, I would say, you know, those kind of risks that they identified, what went wrong in the A380, have definitely, for example, been taken into account, and methodologies have been changed for the A350, for example. Yeah. So a lot of things changed because of that. If you're referring, the question's going more in sort of like, do we collaborate better? That is something that I don't know if it has to really do with these online platforms. Collaboration is there, and I think it's more face-to-face and working with each other and the experience that they've built up. And the processes have changed, but in terms of, you know, putting all of this knowledge into a database and making sure that everybody's online with this database, as far as I know, under your control, Stephanie, I don't think that that's where we're at yet.
We had a huge change management initiative throughout the company, throughout Airbus, and it's really big. There have been a lot of different ways on how to work together better. Actually, the department who took care of the learning from the A380 experience is really creating a change management department. And this department, we have change agents in various departments to make sure to enable people to change the way they work and have another, just look at the solution in the same direction. So I think from the A380 experience, it was really like changing management, really changing the way we work and look at issues and how we solve them. And I think we are actually taking the benefits of that on the A350.
Any more questions? No? Because I hear you say that there is the will to do something, and because it's clear that we can improve collaboration, we can improve connecting blue and white collar amongst themselves, but also amongst them in the vertical way. But I heard you say we want to do something, but we want to be sure that it works. Now, or did I misinterpret that? I have one.
Yes, actually, this is the culture of the top management of the executive board. They want to do something, but they want to make sure that it works. And the message that we are saying from the IT organization is that we don't know if it's going to work. We don't know if we put in place social networking, if after 2 weeks there will be 120,000 people on the social network exchanging documents, information. We simply don't know. We can take some actions, especially around change management, to make sure that we are maximizing the adoptions of those new solutions across the organization. We have a very good know-how of our people. We know very well their profile, so we can really target and put in place the solutions, but at the end of the day, we just don't know. And this is the key challenge, is when we are saying that we have the support of the top management. We do have the support of the top management, but it's a bit unstructured. And also, they are very hard to convince because they are a bit afraid that they are going to do something that will fail. And failing is not in the culture of the business.
Yeah.
No, that's
there's some background now that to do with the engagement of our employees, etc. I think that's also contributes to this fear. Oddly enough, though, we haven't made that mindset switch between business wants to do this, top management wants to do this, and what do actually end users feel comfortable with doing? So we haven't made that switch to let's focus on our end users. I would say, let's focus on our end users to figure out how we can still meet these objectives that business has. And this is something we were talking about in the group the other day. It's a bit of an issue. It's a mindset change, and it hasn't happened yet.
No, absolutely. Because indeed, this is so new to any company, especially if you're in a very controlled or in a regulated industry. We're going to talk about this afternoon. That if you can't allow failure in these, and it is good to do this internally because then the dirty laundry is not outside, visible for everybody. If you can't allow failure, then how can you ever succeed or learn anything? Who has in your organization a culture that you're allowed to fail?
Can I work for you?
It doesn't surprise me.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be here doing the presentation.
There, you see, and that is, how is that, can I have a moment? Andrew, can you give an example of that? Because I think that is very important in your business culture, implementing these things that you're sort of allowed to fail in a way that you're not hanging on a rope because of that.
Well, it's inherent to the type of business you're in. I mean, we look for oil in the ground, we drill holes in the ground, it's not a perfect science. So if you never find, if you drill a hole you don't find oil, we'll never be in business. You know, failure is part of the risk management that you address when you look for exploration wells, for example. So you're looking for your first well. If it doesn't pay out, then you walk away from that environment and look for somewhere else. So it's inherent from the first point of looking for oil all the way through the chain. It's inherent that you have to focus on embracing the fact that if you fail, that's fine. As long as somewhere along the line you do succeed. And that's the learning process that also the younger generation has to go through to understand.
But referring to your core business, I don't think that EADS would allow
Just building a plane.
We are not down in the yard, we are up in the
I believe.
It's very interesting to hear that because it's true that it's really in the DNA of our culture. It's no right to fail. And it's very funny that it's in companies, it's also in the DNA of the culture too.
that's perfectly clear. You can't fail building a plane that doesn't stay in the air. So that is clear, but I still think it's, especially if you talk about these kind of things, communication, because we all communicate, no matter what business we are in, and in implementing these kind of platforms, it's important that we are allowed to fail. So thank you very much for your presentations. We are 12:15.